The wind was dry and hot on the edge of the desert planet. Jason wiped the sweat from his forehead as he looked up at the massive stone building ahead. It was the Forbidden Temple, older than anything humans had ever seen, and today he was going to step inside it. "Come on, man, don't chicken out now," laughed Chris, one of the other tourists. Jason gave him a smirk. "Who's chicken? I'm just being respectful." But truth be told, something about the place made him uneasy. The air felt heavy near the temple, like it was watching them. The tour guide, a tall alien woman with glowing blue skin, stood with her arms crossed. "Go inside if you want," she said, "but do not touch the statue." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Why?" The guide narrowed her eyes. "Because no one who touched it ever came back the same." Everyone laughed, even Jason. It sounded like a ghost story, like something made up for drama. Still, when they entered the temple, the laughter slowly faded. The walls were high and carved with strange symbols. A chill moved through the air, even though it was hot outside. At the center of the dark stone hall she stood, a statue of an alien woman, taller than any human. She had strong arms, a proud face, and her hands rested calmly at her sides. Her chest was carved with ancient armor, and her eyes looked almost real. Jason stepped closer, his boots echoing across the floor. He looked up at the statue. They sure knew how to make them detailed. Chris whispered behind him, "Touch it. Come on, poke her chest. Let's see if she blinks." Jason chuckled, raised a finger, and gently tapped the stone armor on her chest. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the statue's head moved, just a small turn, but enough to make Jason freeze. Her stone hand shot out and grabbed his wrist, tight and warm. Jason gasped, eyes wide. The others screamed and ran. Only Jason remained frozen. The statue stepped off her pedestal, dust falling from her body like sand. She leaned in close to his ear and whispered something in a language he didn't understand, but somehow he did understand it. "You woke me," she said, "and now I remember." Jason pulled his hand, but she wouldn't let go. Her grip was strong, but her eyes, they looked sad. She tilted her head slightly, studying his face. "You are not him," she whispered again, "but your soul feels familiar." "What are you?" Jason asked, heart pounding in his chest. "Who locked you in here?" The temple began to tremble. Cracks formed in the walls, and dust fell from the ceiling. Lights, hidden deep inside the carvings, began to glow blue and red. The statue woman stepped back and looked around. "I was betrayed," she said. "They turned me to stone because I knew too much, because I felt too much." Jason looked toward the exit, but it was now sealed by a thick stone door. His group was gone, and he was trapped. "I didn't mean to wake anything," Jason said. "It was just a joke." She turned to him slowly, her face calm. "Fate does not care about jokes, human," she said. "It only needs a spark. You were that spark." Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from the far side of the hall. Another statue, a beast-like figure, moved slightly, its head turning toward them. "Not good," she whispered. "They wake too. We must leave this place." Jason swallowed hard. "You know a way out?" She looked at him and nodded once. "Follow me, and don't fall behind." With one last look at the sleeping statues around them, she grabbed his hand again, this time gently. Her skin no longer felt like stone. It felt warm, alive, and somehow familiar. Jason didn't know what he had touched, but he knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just an old alien statue. He had awakened something powerful, something ancient, and now he was part of it, whether he liked it or not. As they disappeared into the dark halls below the temple, a faint whisper echoed behind them. Another statue stirred, its eyes glowing red in the shadows. The first thing Jason noticed was the sound, deep, low, and distant, like the breathing of something massive underground. The second thing he noticed was her hand still wrapped around his, warm now, not stone. He was running beside her through dark tunnels lit by strange glowing lines along the walls. None of it made sense, and yet it all felt weirdly familiar. Behind them, the temple was shaking. More statues were waking, their stone skin cracking open, revealing glowing eyes and pulsing veins. Jason looked back once and saw one of the creatures step down from its pedestal, sniff the air, then roar. It was hunting them. She moved fast, her steps quiet but firm, like someone who knew these halls well. Jason struggled to keep up, his legs aching, his heart racing. "What are those things?" he asked between breaths. "They were my guardians," she said without looking at him. "But now they serve only the jailers." The tunnel opened into a wider chamber with sharp black crystal hanging from the ceiling. In the center, floating above a circular platform, was a symbol, glowing and spinning slowly. She paused and stared at it, something like pain crossing her face. "This was once my throne room," she whispered. Jason stared at her. "You're not just some alien trapped in stone, are you?" She turned to face him, eyes glowing faint blue. "I was queen of this world once," she said softly, "until my own court turned against me." Jason stepped forward, still trying to understand everything. "But why me?" he asked. "Why did I wake you? I didn't do anything special." "You touched the seal," she said. "Only someone with a soul linked to mine could do that." Jason blinked. "Wait, are you saying like reincarnation or something?" She gave a small nod. "I don't know how or why, but you carry a part of someone I once trusted, someone who betrayed me." Jason stepped back. "I betrayed you?" She looked down, not answering. "I don't know if it was betrayal or mercy," she said after a long pause. "But you were the one who ended me, or saved me, 10,000 years ago." The platform in the center glowed brighter, and the symbol changed, shifting into something sharp and red. The air grew cold, and her body stiffened. "They're coming," she said quickly. "This place is no longer safe." A scream echoed from the tunnel they came through, deep and mechanical. Jason turned to run, but the floor split open beneath him. He fell hard into darkness. The world spun, his body slammed into stone. Then everything went quiet. When he opened his eyes, he was somewhere else, a different room, round and smooth, walls covered with pulsing veins of light. He groaned and sat up slowly. She stood above him again, watching. "You fell into the memory chamber," she said, voice softer now. Jason looked around. "Is this a prison or a museum?" "Both," she answered. "This is where the truth hides." Jason stood and stared at the walls. Images flickered on the surface. Alien cities, great wars, spaceships exploding in the sky. And then, himself, not him exactly, but someone who looked like him, wearing alien armor, kneeling before her, then raising a weapon, then pressing a hand to her chest, just like Jason had done. Then everything went white, and her body turned to stone. Jason staggered back, breathing fast. "I did that," he whispered. "Your soul did," she replied. "Or maybe he did it to protect me from becoming a monster." Jason turned to her. "Are you a monster?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked toward him, her steps slow. "I was powerful," she said. "I ruled this world. But power has a price." She raised her hand and showed him a long scar down her palm. "They feared I would destroy everything," she said. "Maybe they were right." Before Jason could respond, the ground shook again. A deep voice spoke through the walls, echoing like thunder. "The seal is broken. Destroy the queen. Kill the human." Jason looked at her, panic in his eyes. "What do we do?" She reached for him and pulled him close. Her eyes locked onto his. "We run," she said. "But soon, you must decide. Will you trust me or seal me again?" From above, a hole opened, and strange figures dropped through, tall, armored, faceless, their weapons glowing. She raised her hand and blasted them back with a wave of invisible force. Jason watched, stunned. She wasn't stone anymore. She was alive and dangerous, and maybe his only hope. They ran again into the shadows, chased by echoes of a past. Neither of them fully remembered, but the memory chamber had shown enough. Jason had touched more than just a statue. He had touched a forgotten war, a sleeping queen, and something inside him had started to wake. It started with the sound of breathing, but it wasn't Jason's or hers. Something large was breathing behind the wall, slow and angry. Jason stopped running and whispered, "Do you hear that?" She didn't answer, but her hand tightened around his. A crack appeared in the stone beside them, then another, like a giant fist pushing through from the other side. Jason stepped back, but the tunnel was narrow. There was nowhere to run. She looked up at the cracks and said in a low voice, "They found us." Jason didn't ask who. He already knew. More statues had awakened. Not like her, but twisted and wrong. The Guardians, she called them, but they didn't look like protectors anymore. With a sudden boom, the wall burst open. A huge figure stepped out, glowing with red lines all across its body. Its face was hidden by a mask, smooth and cold. But when it turned toward Jason, it spoke with a voice like thunder. "You should not be here, flesh-bearer." Jason froze. How do you know me?" The Guardian raised its long weapon, shaped like a blade but alive. "We remember the soul," it said. "You betrayed her once. You will do it again." Before Jason could move, she stepped in front of him, arms wide. "He is with me now," she said sharply. "He is not yours." The Guardian paused, head tilting slightly. "Then he dies with you," it replied. It moved fast, too fast for something so big. Jason was sure it would kill them both. But she raised her hand, and the air around her cracked like glass. A force exploded outward, slamming the Guardian into the far wall. Jason grabbed her arm. "What was that?" She breathed hard. "A memory of my power, but it fades." More cracks echoed through the tunnels. There were more Guardians coming. Too many. She pointed down a narrow path to the left. "This way." Jason didn't ask questions anymore. They ran, twisting through the ancient tunnels. Symbols on the walls glowed as they passed, reacting to her presence, or maybe his. Finally, the tunnel opened into a strange place. Not stone, not metal, something soft and warm, like a living hallway. Jason stepped inside, looking around in awe. "Where are we now?" he asked. "A place that remembers," she said. "A part of the city that still believes in me." The walls lit up with dim blue light. Jason saw images moving along the surface, scenes of the past. The Queen standing proud before a crowd, Jason's past self kneeling, and then betrayal, again and again in different ways. Each time he chose a different path. Sometimes he saved her, sometimes he left her, but always he was there. Always he was the one who made the final decision. Jason felt cold. "What am I to you?" he asked. She looked at him with tired eyes. "You were my protector, my sword, and once you were my heart." Jason didn't know what to say. None of this made sense, and yet it all felt like truth. Every step they took together, he felt something inside pulling, something waking up. Suddenly, the light in the living hallway flickered. She gasped and fell to one knee. Jason rushed to her side. "What's wrong?" "They are draining the city," she whispered. "The Guardians are cutting off my link to it." The walls began to dim, and in the shadows ahead, the sound of footsteps echoed. Jason stood up, heart racing again. "We can't keep running forever," he said. She looked up at him, eyes glowing faintly again. "No," she said. "Soon we fight." Behind them, the soft walls cracked open as a new creature stepped through. This one was smaller than the last Guardian, but faster. Its mask opened slightly, showing rows of sharp teeth. It growled and charged. Jason didn't think. He picked up a broken piece of glowing stone from the floor and threw it at the creature. It hit the mask, which sparked, just enough for her to unleash another wave of energy. The creature flew back and didn't move again. Jason looked down at the stone in his hand. It was warm, pulsing. He didn't know what it was, but it liked him. Maybe this city really did remember him too. She stood again, slower now, tired. Jason reached out and helped her. "I'm not the man you remember," he said softly. "No," she said, "but maybe you're the one I need now." In the distance, a new sound began, not the sound of stone or machines, but voices, chanting in an alien tongue that Jason somehow understood. The Guardians were calling others, and the city of stone was starting to wake for real. Jason was dreaming, but he wasn't asleep. The walls around him were gone, replaced by an endless field under a red sky. He stood alone, armor on his chest, strange symbols glowing on his skin. Ahead of him was the Queen, but she looked different. Her eyes were bright with fire, and her mouth moved, but no words came out. He stepped forward, wanting to speak, to explain, but she raised her hand, and the ground cracked beneath him. Suddenly her body turned to stone again, then shattered. Jason screamed, and the world collapsed into blackness. He opened his eyes, gasping. The hallway was still there, pulsing gently, and the Queen sat nearby, watching him with a strange expression. "You saw it, didn't you?" she asked. Jason rubbed his face. "Yeah, I think it was a memory." She nodded slowly. "A memory not just of the past, but of the soul." Jason looked at his hands. "It felt like I did something horrible." She stood, brushing off dust from her clothes. "Maybe you did, or maybe you saved me from myself." Jason wanted to believe the second part, but the dream wouldn't leave his mind. He followed her down a stairwell covered in vines that seemed to grow in real time, twisting to avoid her steps. "Where are we going now?" he asked. She looked back over her shoulder. "To a place where memory becomes truth." As they reached the lower level, the air changed. It was colder here, wetter too, like the city had tears trapped in its stone. A tall door stood ahead, shaped like a mirror, but with no reflection. It hummed as they approached, as if alive. She reached out and touched it with her fingertips. Jason saw her flinch as the mirror pulled something from her light, emotion, pain. Then, without warning, it turned into water and parted. Jason stared in disbelief. "What is this place?" She stepped through first, saying only one word, "Echoes." Inside, the chamber was silent, but not empty. Floating above the floor were hundreds of glowing shards, each one showing a moment frozen in time. He saw versions of himself in armor, holding alien blades, standing before armies, kneeling at the Queen's feet, then turning away, walking into fire, or raising a hand to strike her down, each memory a different ending, but always him, and always her. Jason moved closer to one shard, but the Queen held his arm. "Be careful," she warned. "Some memories fight back." Jason looked into the glowing glass and saw a version of himself holding her, both of them smiling. It felt warm, like hope. Then the image changed, his eyes went cold, and he stabbed her through the heart. Jason pulled back, heart thudding. "I don't understand," he said. "Why would I do that?" She stepped closer, her voice quiet. "Because sometimes love turns into fear, and fear kills what it cannot control." Jason wanted to look away, but something in him said he needed to see more. He walked deeper into the chamber, where a large shard floated alone in the center. Unlike the others, this one was cracked, dark at the edges, glowing faintly blue in the center. He reached out, and the shard reacted, spinning fast, pulling him forward. The Queen shouted, "No, wait!" But it was too late. Jason's vision exploded. He stood again in the ancient city, not as himself, but inside the body of the man he once was. The Queen stood across from him, her body glowing like a star. Buildings burned around them, and soldiers ran in fear. "I can't control it," she screamed, her voice shaking the sky. "I feel everything, I see everything, and it's driving me mad." Jason's past self stepped forward, tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I don't know how to save you." Then he raised his hand and pressed it to her chest. She gasped and turned to stone, frozen mid-scream, her eyes wide with pain and relief. Jason fell to his knees in the real world. The shard dimmed, returning to stillness. She stood beside him, silent, waiting. "You did it," she said finally. "You were the one who ended me." Jason looked up at her. "I didn't want to, but I didn't know what else to do." She nodded, her face unreadable. "Then maybe this time you can try a different choice." From outside the chamber, a deep rumble shook the floor. The Guardians had found the entrance. They didn't care about memories, only about ending hers forever. She reached down, helping Jason to his feet. "We don't have much time," she said, "but we have enough to rewrite the ending." Jason looked back at the cracked shard one last time, and for a second it flickered with something new. Not death, not fear, but something that looked a lot like a second chance. A soft hum filled the silence, like the sound of a sleeping heart waking up. Jason didn't move, didn't speak. He was still staring at the broken memory shard, because now it was no longer just showing the past. It was changing. The image shifted, slowly, like it was unsure of itself. He saw the Queen again, glowing, but this time her face showed something new. Control, calm, not rage, not madness. Jason leaned in, breath slow. She placed a hand on his shoulder, pulling him back gently. "Too long in that shard, and your mind may forget which self it belongs to," she said. Jason looked at her. "I think it's already forgetting." She gave him a tired smile. "Then let me help you remember what truly matters." A loud bang echoed through the tunnels above. Stone cracked, followed by heavy footsteps, slow, steady, and growing louder. Jason turned toward the sound. "They're close." "Yes," she said, "they are breaking into the city's heart." Jason looked around the chamber. "Isn't this the city's heart?" She shook her head. "No, that lies deeper, where time itself is kept locked." They hurried through another passage that opened as she walked near. The walls here were smoother, the air colder. Jason saw no carvings now, only dim lights pulsing like veins under the surface. It felt like walking through the body of something alive, something old. The deeper they went, the more he heard whispers, not from her, not from himself, but from the walls. Voices calling his name, in hundreds of different tones, some warm, some angry, some begging. Each voice felt like a version of himself from other lives. He clutched his head, trying to block them out. "Make it stop," he whispered. She turned to him quickly and touched his chest. The voices faded. "You're not ready for them yet," she said softly, "but you will be soon." Finally, they reached a circular room with no doors, no windows, just a flat stone floor with a single mark in the center, an ancient spiral. She knelt down beside it, pressing her palm into the spiral. Light exploded outward, not bright but deep. It was a light that made the room feel larger than it was, as if space had stretched. Jason stepped forward, but stopped as the ground shifted. A platform rose slowly from beneath the floor, carrying an object. It was a black crystal box, small, glowing faintly from within. "What is that?" he asked. "The lock," she answered, her voice different now, distant. Jason stared at it, confused. "That doesn't look like a weapon." "It isn't," she said. "It's the key to my full release, or my final end." Jason stepped closer, hesitant. "So what happens if I open it?" "You return me to full strength," she said. "But the rage comes with it, the voices, the storm. And if I don't, then I return to stone forever." Jason swallowed hard. I don't know if I can make that choice. She looked at him, truly looked, like she was searching through him. Then listen to your own soul, she whispered, because it has already chosen once before. Before he could speak, the ceiling cracked. A guardian dropped into the chamber. This one was different, larger than the rest, armor etched in gold, its mask shaped like a face without eyes. Jason reached for the box without thinking. The guardian roared, the sound shaking the walls. It charged, moving faster than anything that big should move. Jason turned toward it, holding the box, but it was the queen who moved first. She stepped between them, lifting both hands. Her voice rose, not loud, but powerful. Words spilled from her mouth that Jason couldn't understand, but they made his bones vibrate. The guardian froze, stunned. Then its armor began to crack, like it was turning to stone, but the queen collapsed, coughing hard, her glow fading. Jason ran to her, grabbing her shoulders. "You're hurt," he said, panicked. She smiled faintly. "The link, it's almost gone." He looked down at the box, the glow now pulsing faster as if waiting. He had to decide, free her completely and risk everything, or lock her away again and lose the only being who truly remembered him. Jason took a breath and placed his hand on the crystal. The entire chamber went silent. The box opened, the light inside flooded the room, and something ancient and beautiful began to awaken, not just in her, but in him. The silence didn't feel like peace, it felt like the world holding its breath. Jason stood frozen, his hands still resting on the open crystal box. The light around him wasn't fading, it was folding into him, slowly, like mist sliding under his skin. He gasped as the warmth traveled through his chest, down his arms, into his fingertips. His thoughts raced, but his body didn't move. He wasn't afraid, he was changing. The queen lay on the floor beside him, barely breathing, her glow almost gone. Her eyes fluttered open, just enough to see him. "You opened it," she whispered. Jason looked down at her. "I didn't know what else to do." She gave him a tired smile. "Then you did the right thing." Above them, the massive guardian twitched, stones spreading over its body like vines. It let out a low growl before freezing completely, trapped like she once was. But Jason didn't feel victorious. He felt awake. He looked at his hands, now faintly glowing, pulsing the same color as the crystal had. Symbols were forming on his arms, faint, like old tattoos returning. They weren't just alien, they were hers, her mark, her memory. His blood now carried the lock and the key. Jason stepped toward her and gently helped her sit up. "I think you passed something to me," he said. She nodded weakly. "A piece of me, a part of the link, to help you survive what comes next." Jason looked toward the dark corridor behind them. The air was heavy again, full of movement, full of sound, and then he heard it. Footsteps, many of them, all marching in perfect rhythm. "They're coming," he whispered. She nodded. "Yes, the final ones, the oldest ones." They were sealed far beneath even me. Jason helped her to her feet. "Can you walk?" "I will," she said. "I have to." They stepped into the corridor together, the crystal box fading behind them like it never existed, but Jason could still feel it in his chest, beating like a second heart. The walls of the ancient city pulsed with life again. Doors opened on their own, bridges formed over empty spaces. It was like the city now saw him as its master. "What is this place really?" Jason asked as they moved deeper. She looked around. "This was the core of my world, the place where memory and power were stored." Jason nodded slowly, "And I just plugged myself into it." She chuckled softly. "Yes, very human of you." Suddenly, the corridor ahead cracked open. A chamber full of light and motion appeared. Dozens of guardians stood in a wide circle, but these ones weren't wearing masks. Their faces were carved like ancient gods, and their eyes glowed white. At the center was a throne made of black stone, and seated upon it was something that looked like a man. But Jason knew instantly, it wasn't. The figure had no shadow, and its voice echoed before its mouth even moved. "So the traitor awakens with the queen beside him." Jason stepped forward, his voice steady. "I didn't betray anyone." The figure stood slowly, towering. "You did, in every lifetime, in every story. You chose her, and then destroyed her." The queen stepped forward, though her legs trembled. "You imprisoned me for feeling too much," she said. "You were afraid of change, of love, of choice." The figure raised its hand. "We were afraid of war. Your feelings burned worlds." Jason felt something stir in his chest. He stepped between them, eyes locked on the creature before him. "Then maybe it's time for a different story," he said. The moment the words left his mouth, the chamber exploded in sound. The guardians charged forward in perfect motion. Jason didn't think he moved. Energy flowed from his hands like lightning. It wasn't magic, it was memory. Each step he took was one he had taken before. Each strike was a shape his soul already knew. Beside him the queen unleashed a scream that bent the walls. Her strength had returned, because he had returned. Together they moved like a storm reborn. Statues cracked, weapons shattered, the throne itself trembled, but the shadow figure remained standing. It raised its arm, and the whole room shook as if the city itself wanted to fall apart. Jason shouted over the noise, "This ends now." The figure's voice came one last time. "Then prove you are different. Prove you would not betray her again." Jason looked at the queen. She reached for his hand, and for the first time they held each other not as strangers, but as survivors of 1,000 forgotten histories. This time they would not break. This time they would rewrite everything. He had no heartbeat anymore, at least not the kind he recognized. What pulsed inside Jason now wasn't just blood. It was energy, memory, history. The city was inside him, and it was awake. The queen stood beside him, her skin glowing brighter than ever, her hair flowing as if moved by a wind that wasn't there. They stood in the center of the final chamber, surrounded by the fallen, the guardians, once proud protectors, now silent and still, their masks shattered, their weapons cold, but one still stood, the one with no shadow, the one who sat upon the black throne. He had not attacked, not yet, he had only watched and waited. "You survived what no other could," the figure said. His voice echoed through every wall, every stone, as if the entire world spoke with him. "You broke the seal. You opened the lock. You made the choice." Jason didn't move, but the queen stepped forward. "I made the choice too," she said. "I chose not to lose myself this time." The figure tilted its head, no emotion on its face. "Then prove it," he said. "Kill the human. Prove you can be free without him." Jason laughed once, bitter and quiet. "Same trick every time, huh? Turn us against each other? You always fall for it," the figure replied. "In every lifetime you fear her. You fear what she becomes, and you run." Jason looked at the queen. She looked back, but neither of them moved. This time something was different. This time they remembered enough. "I'm not running," Jason said, stepping closer to the throne. "Then die standing," the figure said, raising one hand. From above the ceiling cracked open, and a beam of black fire shot down toward them. The queen grabbed Jason's hand. He didn't pull away. Together they raised their joined hands to the sky. The light from within Jason collided with the fire, and for a single second, everything turned silent and white. Then, nothing. No explosion, no pain, just silence. The shadow figure looked down at its own chest. There was a mark there now, Jason's handprint glowing softly. The figure staggered back confused. "You bonded with the city," it said. Jason nodded, his voice quiet but steady. "And the city chose us." Cracks formed across the throne, and then the figure itself. Light poured out of its body, and slowly it broke apart, not violently, but peacefully, as if finally letting go of something it had held too long. The chamber dimmed, the heat faded, and the walls relaxed. Jason fell to his knees, exhausted. The queen knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder. "It's over," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "For the first time, it's really over." Jason looked up at her, sweat on his brow, a weak smile on his lips. "Good," he said, "because I don't think I could have done that again." She laughed, a real laugh, the kind that echoed in the heart. "Then don't," she said. "Stay, build something instead." The city above them changed. The once dead buildings began to glow again, but not red, not the color of war. Soft blue and green lights flickered on rooftops. Vines grew without being planted. Water flowed where it had not for centuries. The ancient city was breathing again. Later, when they stood on a balcony overlooking the ruins, the queen asked, "What will you do now, Jason?" He thought for a moment. "I think I'll stay," he said. "You know, watch over this place. Maybe help build a future, instead of digging through old ruins." She looked at him carefully. "And me?" Jason smiled. "You were never a ruin," he said. "You were just waiting to be seen again." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she took his hand in hers, not with force, not with fear, but with peace, and together they looked over the city that once held chains, now free, now alive, because of one touch, one choice, and one soul that remembered what it meant to stay.